What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of What's the Word, your home for all things sports. I'm your host, Sam Casillas, and before we dive into today's topic of Super Bowl 58, I just want to give a quick thanks to everyone for your tremendous support on episode 1, this podcast. It's been a long time coming, a lot of work has gone into it, so to have that amount of success on episode 1, it really does mean a lot to me, and that wouldn't be possible without you guys. So I just want to give a big thanks to everyone who liked, who shared, who commented, who boosted the video in any way. It really does mean a lot to me. Thank you for your support, and I hope you continue to support What's the Word. But without further ado, let's dive into episode 2 of this podcast. Super Bowl 58 is here. San Francisco 49ers versus the Kansas City Chiefs, both teams making their way to Allegiant Stadium in Vegas for what's going to be a great one. I mean, this matchup is going to be nothing short of awesome, starting with the NFC champions, San Francisco 49ers. I mean, they're back in the Super Bowl. Their last appearance was 5 years ago, and ironically, it was against the Chiefs. As you know, they suffered that tough loss, 31 to 20. So this is a team that's had that taste in their mouth for quite some time since that loss. They just haven't really been able to get over that NFC Championship hump. It was the Rams in 2022 and then the Eagles in 2023, where if you remember that game, Brock Purdy was sidelined with that elbow injury early on, and the 49ers really just crumbled against that Eagles defense. So this is a team that's kind of had that bad taste in their mouth of losing for quite some time. And, I think this year's squad is just way better on both sides of the ball than in that Super Bowl year. They've made some key additions on both sides of the ball. And I think this is just their Super Bowl year. I mean, they've had that taste in their mouth of losing for so long. And for them to be able to get back to the big stage, and I think they're going to put on a show. And I think they're going to be able to go out and do what they do and be successful. So I really am excited to watch this San Francisco team as they make their way back to the Super Bowl. So many weapons, like I mentioned, on both sides of the ball. Brock Purdy's playing at an elite caliber level. I mean, he's 5th in the league in passing yards and 3rd in passing touchdowns. Christian McCaffrey coming off that Offensive Player of the Year award. I mean, just can't say enough what he's done for this squad and just what he brings to this San Francisco squad. I mean, he's kind of just the spark that gets that squad going. It's so evident. I mean, that squad goes as he goes. In the games where McCaffrey hasn't been at his best, that 49ers team hasn't really been at their best. So it's plain and simple. I mean, McCaffrey, Offensive Player of the Year, he's that spark for that 49ers squad. They go as he goes. So let's not forget about that defensive side of the ball as well. I mean, so many ballers, Deommodore Lenoir, Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, just to name a few. And I mean, this team hasn't even been playing their best football yet. So the fact that they've made it to this stage, I think they're still hungry. I think they're going to let that hunger carry them to the Super Bowl win. But I'm really excited to see just how this team comes out and how this team carries themselves on the big stage. They've had some tough losses in the past couple years in the NFC Championship. So the fact that they made it back to the big stage, it wasn't the prettiest in their last 2 weeks of win, the Packers and the Lions. It wasn't the prettiest. So, I mean, I think they're just going to take that with a grain of salt and just be happy that they're back in the moment. I mean, they're here for a reason. They're a great team. So I'm excited to see what they do on Sunday against this really complete, dynamic Chiefs offense. I mean, it's going to be a big shootout, and I think this game is going to be nothing short of amazing. So you better go get that popcorn ready, because these two teams, I mean, every time they play, it's a blockbuster matchup for sure. But let's get right into it. I mean, the offensive keys for San Francisco, I think, is going to be pretty simple. Right off the bat, I think you want to get Deebo Samuel. You want to get Kittle going on early just so they can open up that run game and really just space out the field for Kyle Shanahan and this offense. I mean, there's so many weapons on that San Francisco offense. There's Kyle Juszczyk, there's Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle. So I think the fact that they can space the field out so much is really, really key for this 49er team. But I think if they want to win this game, they got to get Deebo and they got to get Kittle going early on, because I do expect this Kansas City team to come out really aggressive. I expect them to stack the box with 4 or 5 and really just make someone other than McCaffrey beat them. And I think if you're the 49ers, you're going to want to, right off the bat, kind of make them dial down that pressure a little bit and, space the field, get that ball out to Deebo, get that ball out to Kittle, and just let them do what they do in space. I think the Chiefs are going to come out aggressive, so if the 49ers can kind of just outplay that aggressiveness to start and just get the ball out wide and to Kittle and Deebo and even Ayuk, I think that's going to be awesome for the 49ers. I think that's going to open up so much for them in the play-action game. Kyle Shanahan is just so creative in running this offense. I'm really excited to see just the scheme he wants to go with on Sunday. And this is going to be a big game for him as well. I mean, he's been one of those coaches who's coached in these big games, but hasn't just been able to get it done in the Super Bowl. So great opportunity for him to put his talents on display. I mean, there's going to be a lot of eyes on him. He's so creative with this offensive one and the schemes he runs. Likes to switch up a lot of personnel. He likes to go 21 with Juszczyk and CMC in the backfield. I mean, there's really just no telling just how creative Kyle Shanahan is. So I'm really excited to see just how he comes out in this Super Bowl and how aggressive he wants to be, because we know how aggressive he can be, and I think the Chiefs are going to try to take that away and try to sniff that out. But if he can come out and kind of just not back down and show that he's not afraid to match this Chiefs team and kind of just push them around a little bit, I think it's going to be a fun game. But I'm really excited to see what Kyle Shanahan calls. I think it's just going to be a tremendous game. But I think if they can get Debo and they can get Kittle going early on, that's going to open up the run game, and it's going to open up the play action game. I mean, he knows how to use his personnel. So whether it's Ayuk, whether it's Juszczyk in the backfield, or excuse me, whether it's Debo Samuel or whether it's CMC in the backfield, he likes to do anything. Kyle Shanahan likes to scheme, and he likes to get the ball to his playmakers. It's plain and simple. He'll do it any way he can with Debo in the backfield, in the slot, in the wideout. So he'll get the ball to his guys no matter how he can. And I think if everyone can get involved early and just spread out the field, that's going to open up so much space for this 49ers offense and for Christian McCaffrey to just get going. I think if the Chiefs come out aggressive and the Niners kind of hit them in the mouth a little bit, it's going to force them to dial back, and that's going to open up so much for San Francisco. But I think that's really what, if you're the 49ers, you're going to have to hammer that early on and just get Debo and get Kittle going on. And I think they're going to be in good shape if they do that. That's going to open up so much for McCaffrey. And then just locking down the Chiefs front four. I mean, there's going to be a lot of eyes on that Chiefs defensive line, that 49ers offensive line. And the Chiefs are second in the league in sacks with 60, and just behind the Baltimore Ravens. So they really like to get after QBs. They like to mess with their timing. So I think if this San Francisco offensive line can just keep Brock Purdy upright and allow their playmakers to get down the field and do what they do in space, I think they're going to have a great shot against this Kansas City team. Not an easy task, though. Easier said than done. But I think if they can keep Brock Purdy upright and just really handle that pressure and those blitzes well, because we know Coach Spag likes to bring that pressure, defensive coordinator for the Chiefs. He likes to bring that pressure, whether it's from his linebackers, even likes to run those DB blitzes. And not to mention just the front four for the Chiefs is outstanding. They're a lot of ballers, which I'll get into later on in the episode. But I think if you're the 49ers, you're really going to want to keep Brock Purdy upright and just let your offense do what they do and get out in space and just give Brock Purdy enough time to make the right throws. And we know he's so good at making those right decisions when he has time. So if you're the 49ers, you're going to want to keep him upright and give him as much time as possible if you want to win the game. If they can lock it down on Sunday and if they can win the line of scrimmage, it's not only going to help their pass game, but it's going to help their run game tremendously. And that's where the 49ers are the most dangerous, is when they can get Brock Purdy that time to just let their playmakers go out and do what they do. So that's really going to be a key focus, getting Debo, getting Kittle involved, but not only that, just keeping Brock Purdy upright is going to be the name of the game. I mean, if they keep him upright and they keep his jersey clean, the Chiefs secondary could be in for a long night, and there's really just no telling how much this Niner offense can go for. I mean, they got stars all across the board, all throughout the lineup. They can kill you in so many ways. And so I'm just really excited to see how this 49er offense comes out against this Chief defense. It's going to be a heavy hitting game, and I think if the 49ers can just stick to that plan and keep spacing out the field, I think they're going to be in good shape. So I'm just really excited to see, again, like the type of game that Coach Shanahan calls. A lot riding on this game for him, and I think a lot of critics are going to be watching him. He's going to be under a microscope because he's been in this situation before, and he unfortunately came up with the loss, but he has a totally different offense, totally different defense this year at his disposal. So I'm really excited to see the type of game he calls and just what he comes out with to match the aggressiveness of this Chiefs defense, because it is going to be a tall task. They have a lot of ballers on that side of the ball. So I think if they can just stick to that plan, it's going to open up so much for them, and they're going to have a fun afternoon over there in Las Vegas. But pretty much simple on that offensive side of the ball. Get the ball to their playmakers, keep Brock Purdy upright. They're going to be in great shape if they can do that. And then looking at defense, I mean, a lot of eyes are going to be on that San Francisco defensive line. They haven't really been as sharp as they've been known to be. I mean, they've been kind of getting pushed around in these playoffs a little bit. The last two playoff games against Green Bay and against Detroit, they've been giving up 5.6 yards per carry on the ground. So they've been a little vulnerable to the run, and I think they're really going to try to sell out and stop the run. But that's going to be a big point of emphasis for this 49er defense. We know that the Chiefs like to get that ball to Isaiah Pacheco, and he is a hard runner. He runs with so much power behind those footsteps, and he really just is so good at taking what the defense gives him. So I think the 49ers are going to have a big task on their hand, but again, a lot of that focus is going to be on that 49ers front four. Chase Young, Nick Bosa, Javon Hargrave, Javon Kinlaw, Eric Armstead, Randy Gregory. They have a lot of gamers in that defensive line room. So all eyes are going to be on them. They haven't really been playing their best football, which is a little bit crazy to say, because that's arguably one of the most talented groups in that defensive side of the ball. Is that defensive line room, and the fact that they've been under some pressure and really haven't been performing up to standards. I think there's no better time for them to display their talents on the big stage. So I'm really expecting their pass rush to get home and really just disrupt Mahomes' timing as much as it can. I think that's going to be key if they want to win this game. Just stop the run and kind of just force Mahomes to throw. We know they like to force the ball to Pacheco, but if he's constantly getting tackled for loss or tackled for no gain, and if this 49er defensive line comes out hungry, I think they're going to have a fun day, and they're going to be back there a lot. So that's really going to be a key focal point for this 49er team, is just getting home on Patrick Mahomes. That defensive line is so talented, but they just haven't really been living up to the hype so far in these playoffs. Just like I mentioned, just 2 sacks, and both of those being from Nick Bosa. So I think if they want to win this game, they got to get that D-line going, and they got to get them going right off the bat ASAP, and just really make it known that they're going to come after Patrick Mahomes, and they're going to give him a run for his money. They're going to make him work. They're going to make Pacheco work for every yard. So it's really going to be a good matchup, that Chiefs offensive line versus that star-studded San Francisco defensive front. And why stop at their defensive line? I mean, tremendous linebacker play by Fred Warner, He's just so good at stopping the run. So when they have that run stuffer, that elite linebacker behind them, that they're just so dangerous. So if the 49ers defensive line can cause problems, I think that's going to open up a lot for Fred Warner too. But really that's going to be a focal point, is that trench match between the Chiefs offensive line and the 49ers defensive line. I think the Chiefs are going to come out and stick with that 3 tight end look, that run heavy look, to try to get Pacheco going right off the bat. And I think if the 49ers want to counter that, they're going to have to bring some pressure. They're going to have to switch up from 4 down to 5 down and just really not let those Chiefs tight ends get that run game going. The Chiefs want to get behind that beef, and they want to establish the run game. So I think if the 49ers take that away from the get-go and they crowd the box, rush 5, I think they're going to be fine. But that's really going to be a key focal point for this game, is that trench play, and that's eventually what it's going to come down to, is those offensive lines and those defensive lines. But I think the 49ers, if they can sell out and if they can stop this run, I think they're going to be good, and just trust their secondary in those situations. I mean, they have a lockdown secondary, starting with, Diamador Lenore and Charvarius Ward. They've been playing at some great levels this season. So I'm really excited to see how they come out and how they match up against Travis Kelce, against Rashee Rice. It's the Super Bowl. You better get that popcorn ready. This matchup is going to be awesome. So I think if the 49ers want to stay aggressive, there's going to be a lot of eyes on that secondary too. But I think this secondary is up for the shot. They got some dogs back there. So I'm excited to see how that matchup goes, for sure, in the trenches. But all eyes are going to be on that secondary as well. But it's going to be a good matchup between that San Francisco D-line and that Chiefs offensive line. And then, again, kind of staying on that same train, if you're the 49ers offensive line, 49ers defensive line, you're going to want to get some sacks on Mahomes and just not allow him to establish any type of comfort. We know how dangerous Mahomes is. That's so much easier said than done, because he can turn on that magician mode and extend plays, get out of the pocket, make some crazy throws. So definitely not an easy task at hand for this 49ers team, but I think the more pressure they get on Mahomes and the more they force him to make plays, I think they're going to be in a good shot. Mahomes is the highest pressured QB in the league, and he still had some tremendous success. So if this 49ers defense can get home, I think they're going to be in a good spot. So I'm excited to see how this 49ers team comes out and plays. Like I said, this is a team who's gone through some losing. They've had their fair share of losses in the NFC Championship, in the big stage. So this team is hungry, and they are coming out with vengeance. They smell blood in the water, and they're hungry to hoist that Lombardi trophy. So defense is going to be a key focal point for this game. I think more important than the offense, because if this 49er team can just stop Isaiah Pacheco before he even gets going, they're going to put them in a really good spot. And I think if they can just put that pressure on Mahomes, they're going to be in a really good spot. So that's going to be the keys for this 49er defense, is just getting all that pressure on Mahomes and loading that box and stopping Pacheco, making Mahomes throw, and make him throw to other people who maybe aren't Travis Kelce and Rashee Rice. But I think the 49ers do have a lot of trust in that secondary. Like I mentioned, Diamador Lenore, Charvarius Ward, they've been playing at elite levels this season, and I think they have what it takes to to stick these Chiefs receivers. So I expect the 49ers to come out in a lot of pressure, and I think they're going to trust that man coverage behind those looks. So I'm really excited to see that matchup. It's going to be a great one this Sunday. But that's going to wrap it up for that 49ers side of the ball. I think if they just stick with getting Debo and Kittle involved, and if they keep Brock Purdy upright, they're going to be a tremendous spot offensively. And then defensively, that D-line is going to have a lot of pressure on them. But I think they're gamers and they're ballers, so they're really going to live up to this hype. And why not? What better time to perform as best you can at the biggest stage? So all eyes are going to be on them, and I think they're going to rise to the occasion, and they're going to have a game. It's not going to be an easy task, like I said, against Mahomes, against this Chiefs offense. I mean, they've been in this situation before, so they know how to play. But I'm really excited to just see how this defense especially comes out hungry despite the losses in the past. And so I think it's going to be a great game. But moving on from the 49ers, starting with the Chiefs are back in the Super Bowl, and they're looking to become the 9th team ever to just win back-to-back Super Bowls. I mean, that's a tremendous feat. Let that sink in. The 9th team ever to win back-to-back Super Bowls, the last team being the New England Patriots. So, I mean, tremendous feat potentially for this squad. They know exactly what's at stake, like I mentioned. They were in the Super Bowl last year. They won against the Eagles, so they know how to play in these types of games, and they know what's at stake. So I'm really excited for this game. I think it's going to be a huge back and forth, and these are two big dogs in the NFL, and they were arguably the favorites heading into the season, but I think this matchup is still going to deliver. But like I mentioned, the Chiefs, they do have that experience, and you can really never count Mahomes out. So I'm really just excited to see how they come out and how they look to push for that two-peat and get a win against this 49ers squad. But on the offensive side of the ball, I think it's going to be plain and simple. Get Isaiah Pacheco going early on. That's going to open up so much for this Chiefs offense. But like I mentioned, for the 49ers, their game plan, I think, is going to be to stay aggressive. And if you're the Chiefs, you can't let that deter you from the run game. You know the 49ers are going to come out, and they're going to stack this box against that 3 tight end look, and they're going to make you run the football right into the teeth of that defense. And it's not going to be an easy task, but I think if you're Kansas City, you're going to want to try to catch them and take advantage of this 49er defense. I mean, they've been in a tough spot, so they've given up 159 yards in the past couple games. So I think if they can get Pacheco going early on, I think it's going to be a great sign. So just not being intimidated by that 49er front four, it's going to be great. And I'm excited to see how Pacheco gets going. I mean, he's a tough physical runner, and the Chiefs have really been trying to get him involved. He had 24 carries and a touchdown 2 weeks ago against Baltimore. So this team is trying to get him the ball. They just know how good of an athlete he is, how tough of a runner he is, and just he puts his head down. He fights for every yard. So I'm excited to see how they get Pacheco involved. And that yards per carry really wasn't popping out on the stat sheet that much against Baltimore. He finished just 2.8 yards per carry. So that wasn't really eye-jumping on the stat sheet. But, I mean, like I said, this kid is a tough runner. He's physical, and he just plays the game the right way. So I'm really excited to see how the Chiefs come out and get him the ball against this tough 49ers defense. They smell blood in the water, and I think they're trying to spook the Chiefs a little bit. But if you're the Chiefs, you can't get spooked. You gotta go right at them, and I think that's what the Chiefs are going to try to do. And I'm excited to see how it plays out for them. I mean, Pacheco's a dog, so if they can get him going and if they can win the line of scrimmage, I think it's going to open up a lot more for Kelsey and for Rice. So hopefully it's going to be a good matchup, but I'm really excited to just see Pacheco get going in this big game. And then that's really going to be the key focal point for the offense. We know how good Mahomes and Kelsey can be. Like I mentioned, a tough end of the season for Kelsey. He went those last 3 games without having a touchdown catch, but he immediately flipped that switch in the postseason. Him and Mahomes are just on a completely other level, looking like Brady and Gronk out there. But I'm really excited to see how this team comes out. If they can get Pacheco going, it's gonna be a fun day for Kelsey and for Rice. So that's really it. If they can get those guys going, they're gonna be in good shape. And then this one it's not really a big key, but I think if you're the Chiefs, you're gonna want to look for some production from MVS. I mean, he's one of those guys. He's been part of that receiver core who have been plagued with some tough drops and some tough moments. So Mahomes kind of really hasn't looked their way as much, but I think so much defensive attention is going to be on Pacheco that it's going to be on Kelsey and Rice. So that's going to leave a lot more room for these other guys on this Chiefs team to make some plays. And I think, MVS, he had that big game-winning catch against the Baltimore Ravens to seal the deal. So just 2 targets in that game, but I think if you're MVS, you want to build off that momentum from that Baltimore game and just make your presence known. So letting Mahomes know that he has another option other than Kelsey, other than Rice, I think that's going to be huge, and it's just going to keep this defense that much more honest. So if MVS can get going and if he can contribute in an effective way, I think that's going to multiply the Chiefs' chance for success tremendously. I know MVS is a great receiver. He was with Green Bay. I'm a big Green Bay fan. So I know just what he can do, and it's been a little bit of a tough year for him. It's been a tough year for that receiving core in general. So I'm excited to just see MVS perform on the big stage, and hopefully he can get going because that's going to open up just so much more for this Chiefs offense. And he's going to have to make some plays for the Chiefs. That's what it's going to come down to. But I'm really excited to see how he plays on the big stage. And then moving over to the defensive side of the ball, it's really going to be simple for the Chiefs. You got to put pressure on Brock Purdy. You got to keep that constant pressure on him. Coach Steve Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator for the Chiefs, I mean, he's been a little stingy in the past few games with his pressure looks against the Ravens and against the Dolphins. But I think that's going to change on Sunday. The stakes of this game are just too high. I mean, a chance to hoist the Lombardi Trophy. I mean, why not bring out the big guns? Why not try to get after it? So expect to see Spag bring some pressure. And I'm excited to see how this 49er offense is going to handle that. If Spag sends the pressure and if he can get home on Brock Purdy, it's going to look good for the Chiefs, and that's not an easy task at all. I mean, Brock Purdy is third against the blitz. He averages 10.5 yards a pass when these teams do like to bring pressure, so it's not an easy thing to do. Bringing pressure alone isn't just going to win it for the 49ers. I think if you want to win, you got to get home and you got to sack Brock Purdy. So all eyes are going to be on him, and he has 15 touchdowns against the blitz. So it's one thing to blitz him, but it's another thing to get home. If the Chiefs can get home, they are going to be in a great spot. They have a lot of guys on that defensive line. Chris Jones, George Karlaftis, double-digit sacks. So 10.5 sacks on the year for both of them. They're kind of just the sparks on that D-line. So if they can get going and if they can get home and pressure Brock Purdy, I think they're going to be in tremendous shape. And they need their tremendous secondary to hold up for just one more game. This secondary for the Chiefs has kind of been the glue for that defense. They've been playing some great ball, and I think I see them carrying that over for one more game. I mean, they're going to need their secondary to step up against this completely dynamic 49er offense. There's Debo, there's Ayuk, there's Jennings, there's Kittle. So there's so many weapons on the offensive side of the ball for the 49ers, and I think a lot of focus is going to be on this secondary for the Chiefs. They've had some success with Trent McDuffie, with L'Jarius Sneed. They've kind of been the two big factors for that Chiefs defense, and they're playing at an elite level in that Chiefs secondary. So I think they're going to have their hands full all night with Rice and Kelsey. But I think if you're the Chiefs, you're going to stick with what's been working for you. You're going to trust them in those one-on-one situations. And I'm really just excited to see, San Francisco has a lot of ballers on that side of the ball. And the Chiefs, I mean, if you want to get to where you want to go, you got to go through the best. So I'm excited to see how this Chiefs defense comes out against this complete 49er squad. I mean, it's going to be a game, and like I mentioned, you better have that popcorn ready because this one's definitely going to be a shootout. But I think if you're the Chiefs, you want to get home to Brock Purdy, and you want to just trust your secondary to make some plays. If your secondary can come up with a few INTs and win that turnover battle, I think it's going to put the Chiefs in a tremendous spot. So I'm really excited to see how this game plays out. It's going to be a great one, and it's really hard for me to pick a winner. But before I get into my prediction, I want you all to just drop a comment. Who do you guys think is going to win? Do you guys have the Chiefs or do you guys have the 49ers? So who is going to be holding that Lombardi Trophy when it's all said and done in Las Vegas? Drop a comment and just let me know who you guys are rocking with. But before we get into that, here is my pick for this Super Bowl. And let me get a quick drum roll, please. And my pick is the San Francisco 49ers. Yes, I know, tough pick. You're like, how can you count Mahomes out? I mean, he's proven it time and time again what he can do at the big stage, and rightfully so. This was an extremely difficult decision, but I do have the San Francisco 49ers winning. It's going to be a high-scoring affair. I have them 35-21, so I think these teams are really going to go back and forth because they have such dynamic offenses. But I think when the time comes down to it, I think the 49ers defense is going to do what they do, and they're going to get some stops. So all eyes are going to be on the defensive side of the ball for San Francisco, and I think that's just what's going to give them the upper hand this year against this Chiefs squad. So Super Bowl 58, I see the San Francisco 49ers holding that Lombardi Trophy and finally getting that bad taste out of their mouth from the past couple years, those NFC Championship losses, all it's going to be flushed in the rear view once they hold that trophy. So I'm really excited to see how this game goes, and I think this game is going to be amazing. So Kansas City Chiefs versus the San Francisco 49ers Sunday at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, Super Bowl 58. The stage is set, and I have the San Francisco 49ers taking the win. So that's going to do it for this episode of What's the Word. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Sam Casillas, and we'll see you next time.